The parole hearing for Lyle Menendez is set to start in a little more than an hour from now.
And it comes less than 24 hours after the parole board, ruled his brother Erik should stay in prison for the murders of their parents. KCAL News reporter Tina Patel joins us to tell us how the board made its decision and what it now means for Lyle. I think a lot of people we're going to go through this whole process again today.
We are, and family members are trying to be optimistic because the one thing is it's a different parole board that he's going to go before Lyle today. So it has nothing to do with what happened to Erik and his denial yesterday. Now, the one thing that the family tells us is that in California, it is difficult for a prisoner to get paroled the first time they're eligible. So that may be what we saw yesterday. There's only been one picture of Erik Menendez released from the hearing. He was dressed in prison attire, sitting in front of a computer. His virtual hearing went on for about 10 hours. That is much longer than a typical parole board hearing. More than a dozen family members vouched for Erik, who was 18 at the time of the murders, but is now 54 years old. They say Erik has shown remorse for his crime and turned his life around in prison. But the parole board commissioner pressed Erik about his conduct behind bars, using alcohol and drug at points, getting into fights with other inmates, and obtaining a contraband cell phone. So they ended up denying his parole. One commissioner stated, "I believe in redemption or I wouldn't be doing this job, but based on the legal standards, we find that you continue to pose an unreasonable risk to public safety." One of Erik's cousins reacted on social media last night.
We gotta wake up tomorrow and do this all over again for Lyle. So wish us luck. It's not over. And, it's not forever. And just a reminder that although this is disappointing, 2 years ago, this was not even a possibility.
Yeah, there's been a lot of attention on this case in the last couple of years. Now, several of the family members who took part in the hearing yesterday, we're expecting them to again speak on Lyle's behalf today. So it's going to likely be another long day. The hearing's going to get underway at 8:30, and we've been told after this hearing, Attorney Mark Geragos will have a press conference at his office in downtown LA. And I'm sure that some of the questions will be like, what now? We've been told that 3 years from now, Erik will be eligible again, but he can always try to petition for an earlier hearing. So we'll see.
Yeah, still a lot of question marks as to what exactly is next. Tina, thank you so much. Well, joining us now is LA County DA Nathan Hochman. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Yeah, of course, you've been very vocal about your opposition to the brothers' release, citing that you don't feel they've shown they have been fully rehabilitated or that they've apologized fully for their crimes or their lies. It's interesting, though, the parole board, as we just talked about, cited issues with drug and alcohol concerns, fights in jail, Erik having a cell phone he wasn't supposed to have. So it seems they agree with you, but not for the same reasoning?
I think that's in part true, in the sense that what frames the entire decision is whether or not these particular individuals pose an unreasonable risk of danger to society. One of the key factors they look to is insight into your criminal actions and whether or not you've actually performed well in prison, in order to see whether or not we should trust you on the outside and so how you've done on the inside. With respect to insight into the crimes, we have said repeatedly that the Menendez brothers have failed to accept full responsibility for their criminal actions and the lies that they've told. The self-defense lie is just that, it's a lie. They did not say that the reason they killed their parents the night of August 20th, 1989 was because of sexual abuse. Each Menendez brother testified at trial, was asked that question and said the answer was no. So why did they kill their parents? They said because they believed that mom and dad were going to kill them that night. So they had to brutally kill them ahead of time. And we've shown that that's a lie. They bought the shotguns 2 days beforehand in San Diego under fake names. They had a pre-planned alibi. They staged the actual shooting, the brutal shooting, to look like a mafia hit where they shot the dad in the back of his head, the mom at point-blank range when she was lying bleeding on the ground. They shot the parents through the kneecaps. They methodically got rid of all the evidence. They then tried the pre-planned alibi, and then they called 911 screaming, "Someone killed our parents," obviously not them. So what we said is that the Menendez were not ready for parole right now. It's not a question of never, it's a question of not yet. And the parole board, looking also at their failures to properly abide by prison rules over the last number of years, agreed with that position.
Obviously, you're very clearly laying out what the case has been. It's become much more complicated with obviously the Netflix documentaries and these shows and the renewed attention from the public, the family members thinking that you have a vendetta potentially against the Menendez brothers. What do you have to say about, you know, in the court of public opinion, there's a lot of people who have empathy for these two brothers, especially since opinions about sexual abuse, especially with men, have changed so much over the decades.
So I agree with the Menendez family that the Menendez brothers have engaged in seriously good rehabilitation while they've been in prison. But the problem is that this is not about Nathan Hochman personally. What we have done is follow the facts and the law. We looked through 50,000 pages of trial transcripts, thousands of pages of prison records. I talked to the Menendez family members themselves for over 3 hours, their defense counsel, prior prosecutors and law enforcement, and we followed the law. And the law and the facts led us to a direction where the Menendez brothers right now have failed to show full insight into their actions, have failed to abide by prison rules, which is why they had a moderate risk of danger raised from a low level of danger. And ultimately, the parole board concluded the same type of conclusion. Not yet. At the Menendez brothers, or at least Erik Menendez so far, is not ready for parole.
Right. We're still waiting for the decision on Lyle, which will start at 8:30 this morning. Of course, we'll continue to follow that. Do you see any differences in the brothers that you think the parole board would pick up on and possibly free Lyle and not Erik?
I don't, actually. I think that same lack of insight for the last 35 years, where both Lyle and Erik have failed to come clean with all these lies, that certainly applies to Lyle as well. And his comprehensive risk assessment, prepared by certified psychologists for the parole board, raised his risk level over the last year from low to moderate as well. Again, because of Lyle's failure to abide by prison rules. So I think that if the parole board conducts the same type of analysis, looking at the same types of evidence and applying the law, the results should be very similar.
With that said, it was 10 hours yesterday.
Yeah.
Do we see it going that long today?
Well, I think what the parole board wants to be is make sure that it's looked at all the evidence. I believe they gave each of the 18 members, the family members, a chance to address the parole board. They heard directly from Erik in that case. It'll be Lyle today. The prosecutors were able to give a 10-minute argument before the parole board. That was it. And then ultimately the parole board stepped out in that case. They came back with their decision. Whether that takes 10 hours or something less, it just depends on this particular parole board.
Right. We just have to continue watching. LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman, thank you so much for joining us with your time this morning. This is a case that has captivated so many people for decades now. We'll continue to follow it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.